All right. If you are an author or you're writing a book, you are not going to want to miss this conversation with my guest, Parchelle Tashi from the Author's Leverage. Thank you, Parchelle, for joining me today.
Yeah, glad to be here, Laura. This is awesome.
Awesome. So you help people turn their book into a course. So, which is amazing. I actually did the reverse. I created the course, then I wrote the book. So I kind of did the opposite of what you help people do, but I think a lot of times entrepreneurs write a book because they're like, I want to get my message out there, I want to reach more people. It's not necessarily a big revenue generating exercise, right? It can be a lot of
Yeah.
revenue going out the door to do all these things from, my experience. But I'd love for you to share sort of, is there an ideal type of book, or, how can people start to shift their thinking about how they can use their book?
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, authors who set out to write a book, their intention is to make an impact. But I think most of us are starting to realize now you can't really have as big of an impact if you don't have any income. So this is definitely, I think, an avenue that opens up a whole new world of possibilities for authors that we're excited to help bring. And when it comes down to what type of book works really, really well, a lot of times it's the book that is, typically a nonfiction work, something related around the topics of business, around the topics of health, wellness, personal transformation. Those are typically those areas where getting into action is going to benefit the reader or the student in that respect. Um, and so those tend to do very, very well because sometimes the course can be either that next step or answering that what's next, where the book might leave a reader off. And there's just so many possibilities that are there. But typically those topics do very well because they, you have to be in action. You have to know and be guided in those steps so that way you can get the most out of what you're learning.
Yeah, so from my experience having the book, so many people have read the book and then they're like, I know I can't do this on my own, and now I want to work with you to help me through that. And I have something on the other end of that to go, okay, you've read the book, you're like drinking my Kool-Aid, you like what I'm all about, what I can offer you, you feel connected to me because of this book. Here's how now I can help you bring this work to life, right? The book will get you to here, and then I can kind of continue that journey. And if you don't have a place for them to go after they've read the book, I guess we could call that maybe a missed opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And there's so many opportunities that are there, not just with the course, but even when it comes to podcasting or when it comes to speaking or in a strategic sense, if you're a coach, having a course can actually be that middle space between you and your one-to-one time. And so what we found as well is that coaches, entrepreneurs are actually able to increase the price that they're charging for their one-to-one time because now they have a prerequisite or something in place that's going to help prepare them for being most effective in that one-to-one time with them.
That's amazing. So we've
Yeah.
got some people watching. If you want to pop in and say hello, if you've got questions for Parchelle about, maybe let us know, do you have a book? Are you writing a book? Are you planning, do you want to convert your book into a course? Would love to hear any comments that you've got. So feel free to share that with us. So you mentioned that there's, 5 steps for converting a book into a course. Could you walk us through what those steps are?
Yeah, absolutely. Our first step, really, before we even get into really putting together a course and all the assets, is a plan. So, the first step in our process, which we've called the Book to Course Accelerator, is planning. Planning is so key. So, in this planning, we're addressing 3 main areas in your business. So that way, this course is going to be worthwhile. So, those areas are not just the learning design, that's one of them, but we also look into the business planning. How does this book fit within the ecosystem of your existing business, right? Because
Right.
that course can actually help solve a lot of problems for you, whether it's your time or money. And the third area that we look at is the marketing strategy. We look at that before we even start to build anything out because we want to make sure that there's alignment between who this is reaching, who it's for, and how we're going to get this to them. So those areas are what's covered in that plan. And I highly recommend anyone that ventures into this world first looks at having a very, very solid plan in place. And that learning design is also going to inform the actual curriculum and the outline from that book, because you don't just want to take your table of contents and say, yep, this is my outline, because you could be doing a disservice to your readers. So that first step is to plan. Once we have that plan and we're solid on that, now we can continue with execution. And the next step from there is the pre-sale. So what I actually like to do and have my clients do is actually pre-sell this content. Let's go to our existing warm market. Let's go to those that are already connected with us in some way. Find a small group that we can practice this with. That's what I like to just call it, right? We're going to practice this and put a value on this practice. And again, that's going to inform the next step, which then is we actually go into production at that point. So again, we've got our planning, we've pre-sold this, we've got some validation from our market that this is worthwhile and continuing. Then we go into production. Production is where we shine really, really well, because it's my background. I've been a video producer for over 10 years. Masterclass.com is sort of our North Star that we've been implementing, or I should say mimicking in some ways, in terms of how the quality can really match the brand and the message really, really well. So production uncovers everything from the media assets as well as to workbook, any other assets, slides, the way that the course is branded, all that's done in that production stage. And then the fourth step in our process is to publish it. So that's where we're getting into making sure that there's alignment with the actual software, or I should call it the learning management system, that most of us have seen or been familiar with at some point. You know, there's Kajabi, which is like the Mercedes-Benz of those. And then you have things like Thinkific, Teachable, so forth and so on. So we make sure that that's published and that's aligned as well. And then the fifth step is just to promote it. Not only how do we launch this, but how do we keep the conversation going about this course in a really strategic manner? So those are the 5 steps. We're going to make sure that we've planned it well. We're going to pre-sell it to validate with the market. We're going to produce it to the highest standard, the highest quality. We're going to publish it properly with an alignment for how this course is going to function best. And then we're going to promote it.
Amazing. So we've got a comment here I'll share. So this
Yay.
is Alessia Cahoot. She's a client and friend of mine. She's publishing her first book in July and looking forward to converting it into a course soon after. So you're like,
oh,
perfect
beautiful
timing for this.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. You know, just having that conversation and that thinking of what now or what next, like you want to think about that now, especially in that time frame. We actually have a client who's releasing his book in June, and he's already started working with us to create a course that's going to be in alignment with his release of the book. So again, you have a $20 book and now you have, let's say, $1,000 course to go with it. It's really powerful.
Yeah. And, you know, you can do those in tandem because it's typically months, like your book is, you know, at the printers months before, you know, it's coming to Amazon or wherever you're selling it. So in theory, you could be creating that. And, you know, from a branding perspective, since that's what I do, it is so important to have that quality of videos, the quality, like the branded slide decks and the workbooks and worksheets. Like for me, that was a really important part of what I did. I invested in the videos for my course when I did Brand Camp as a video and, you know, kind of create it that way, which I still use. I still use these videos I shot like a number of years ago. I've had a few updates, but the quality, I was like, these can't be home jobs. Like I need to invest in doing this right. Because I knew that that's also part of my brand. And if you have some, you know, it's not to say you can't do some great home videos. I've been doing a lot of those, but you want great lighting and you want to, you know, the editing and all of those details are make people see whether or not this course is of value. Is this a valuable course? Does it look good? Is the sound quality good? It helps almost build trust. If you have a higher quality in your video and your production, it makes people trust you more. Would you
agree? Absolutely, because essentially it's not just about passing on the information anymore. It's up to us to also provide a really strong and robust learning experience. And so the production quality goes into that, as well as you mentioned, the other branded materials. So that way, when you go into it and you're consuming this course, it's something that you're engaged with. You're excited to be there. It's clean, it's crisp. You feel like you're getting this high touch, high tech experience.
Yeah. Do you find that there's something that a lot of people are missing in their courses, like that, you know, in the experience you've had and in building these learning platforms and the video editing, like are people kind of missing a key element that could be hurting their sales or people actually enjoying or completing their course?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges right now across the board when it comes to online courses is the completion rate. I think
Mhm.
it's like 5 to 7% of us that actually complete courses. And so to me, that speaks more to the learning design and how the course is actually structured. And therein, I see some mistakes often with just how the course is paced out, how it leads from one step to the other. The way that we actually plan out our lessons and modules is that each lesson and module should sell the next one, if that makes sense. You
Mm,
want to get them excited to continue, and there's other ways to incorporate things like gamification, to incorporate physical products as well into the experience. So there's other ways to really create again a more robust experience. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is in that regard is just there's just not a strong learning design that's in place. In some cases, especially going from book to course, one of the biggest mistakes is just taking your table of contents and thinking that that's your course. And that's not usually the case. You want to think more strategically in terms of after this book is complete, what questions are the readers asking? What's the next step? And that's where the course can really help take from where they left off in the book and then get them into action more deeply around those topics.
Do you find the courses that you're helping people create, are these like completely self-guided, or is there a live component to the course?
Yeah, there are. It's kind of it's mixed. There are some that are completely on demand that can be self-guided, and then there are others that do need some sort of accountability and support along the way. And sometimes that can be implemented in the form of office hours or any other sort of group activities that are happening throughout where the instructor or maybe one of their coaches is in place to help answer questions to keep that support and accountability going. Sometimes too, it's going to vary depending on the length of the course and how long it's going to actually take to complete it. So going back to what you said too about mistakes, like don't do like a 15 module course, like
That's like
what's most
fire hose,
important.
right? You're
I
like,
know
it's too
what's
much.
most important to people is speed and speed of implementation. If you make it more complex than what it is, again, that's where we go back to this low completion rate when it comes to courses. It becomes too complex.
Yeah. I found in the few ways that I've run Brand Camp as a, less high touch version. So I do have a version where it's like completely high touch or
Mm-hmm.
101, but I have a version where I've experimented with, do we do like I've got modules, and then every week we meet as a group and we review the work from that module. That
Yeah.
helps kind of keep people on pace. I've done it where it's like, okay, it's completely self-guided, and then you get a wrap up call with me at the end, but then they're kind of like, they come and they've not really completed things. Like it
Yeah.
being like, they're not really at the place for me. So it's like, they need some touch points in between to make sure that they're on the right track, answer questions. So it's like, I've played with the model a few
Mm.
times, just to see what what works best for me in terms of getting them to complete it and feel really good
Yes.
about it, because that's an
Yes.
objective I have. It's not about quantity of people, it's about making sure that they do the work and they get what they need out of it. Otherwise, you might as well just read the book and do that. I
Exactly.
mean, like, so I
Exactly.
want there to be that next level. So I think that's really important. So we do have a question here. Adventures in Neosha Land. I like that name. I don't know what your
Hey.
first name is, but it's about lifestyle. So I guess it's about a membership rather than a course.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to memberships, there's definitely a way to, in the same respect of creating content that's going to support your reader. Memberships are really great because you can just essentially create a library. So, for example, if you go live with your group and you have a presentation that you do once a month, then that's sort of building up a library of that membership. And most memberships and communities also are very much user driven. So, getting them involved, there's a different strategy with that. But I think that if the book is more about lifestyle, then I really think that just having a good rhythm of valuable content to support what they're getting in the book and finding a way to connect those strategically in the business ecosystem uh, is going to be really powerful.
Yeah. Are you finding a lot of people are doing like communities as well as a course, Parchelle?
Yeah, I'm almost seeing it as like, I mean, nowadays to have a community is like you have to have that nowadays anyway, just because it supports so many different aspects of your business, right? You can now have a recurring revenue stream there from that, or you can, or she said her name is Neosha. Awesome. I was wondering, I said, I think it is Neosha. But memberships also are great because whenever you come out with new products as well, or something else to offer, you've already got a list or a distribution right there that you can also leverage.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I've definitely found between sort of my book and Brain Camp, because the book is based on Brain Camp, like the amount of content I've been able to create and put out
Mm-hmm.
there has been phenomenal, just from like quotes from the book. At some point early in the pandemic, Amazon wasn't shipping books because it wasn't an essential item.
Oh
And
wow.
so I decided to go on social media. I read my book. I read like a chapter every day on social media or something. And it was super fun. And it was just a way for me to like reach more people and do something kind of fun with the book. And, I've written blog posts kind of blowing that. Like, so it's, you've got this content,
Yes.
and how can you repurpose that, whether it's a course or a book? Is there showing like a module? Do you get like a piece of that? So there's so much you can do from a marketing perspective once you've got
Mm-hmm.
all of this built out. But going back to what you said at the beginning, it's pre-selling it so that is this actually something people will
Yeah.
buy?
Exactly. That's one of the biggest, I guess you could say, from our standpoint in terms of messaging and how we support our prospects in the business that are interested. The first thing we want to help them get clarity on is this worth your time? And the good news is you can know that ahead of time. You can have that clarity before you step in this direction. And so that's one of the topics that we cover in our masterclass, which I will comment on that once that is live. But the whole point of that is for you to walk away with 100% clarity and knowing, is this going to be worth my time to go this direction? Or maybe there's another direction that's going to serve me better. The point being, at the end of the day, if you have a book, there's so many possibilities that are available to you. It doesn't even have to necessarily be a course. You can also repurpose it as content, as lead generation tools that can help bring folks into your business. So you
Yeah.
have to be in continual conversation about your topic. And I love what you said, even when Amazon wasn't shipping books, you were still able to keep that conversation going. And I think that that is absolutely essential. So kudos to you on that.
And I got multiple people into my course by reading
Wow.
my book on social media.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that
That's such
wasn't
a great
even what I was
idea.
going for. I was just like, well, it's not available, so let me try this. I hadn't seen it done before, and I was like,
Hmm.
I'm into
Yeah.
experimenting, so why not? Now, do you
Yeah.
help people figure out what to charge for their courses as well?
Yes. Yep.
Is there a
Absolutely.
formula for that? Like, I feel like it feels so arbitrary in many ways. Like, is this $1,000 course? Is this a $97 course? Is this
Yeah.
a 3,000? Like, how do you figure that out?
There's a bunch of questions that we uncovered during our planning session to really nail down in on what's going to be the most appropriate price for the market with this. And one thing we definitely do is through the pre-sale. That's one way we can validate the pricing of it. But the other questions that we're usually diving into is, of course, looking at the target audience, who this is for, and what they are accustomed to spending to solve this type of problem,
Right.
right? So, if, for example, the topic is around something around self-care or personal transformation, you know, most of us as women, like, we'll easily drop $500 for a spa day or something, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
so we kind of start with that, like, what are they used to spending to solve a similar problem? And so we do a little bit of analysis on that. We also look from a comparative standpoint, what other products are out there that are similar, and of course figuring out how we stand out, and therein seeing, is there a good fit here with that pricing. So um, it really, it depends. Yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
arbitrary, but at the end of the day, I can guarantee you that whatever you're selling your book for, if it's $20 or $30, we can add a zero to it, and that's usually that's the goal. So with that, we can really tailor something for the market. Not necessarily starting with the price, but like, how good is what we're creating? How big is the problem that we're solving, and then allowing those to sort of guide us in what's going to be the most appropriate price to sell this for.
Yeah. I think a factor that could come into play too is, if this is aimed towards a business, how much money will this earned this business by them
Mhm.
learning this thing or no. Like for me, for Brain Camp, it's not an inexpensive course, although it is very high touch, but I know what this will do for their business and how much
Mhm.
money they could end up making when they get their brand right. So it's not just a time factor or, there's so many more nuances to that than, and I think too, the less, what in my experience, the less people pay for something, the less they'll like, the lower the
Yeah,
chance they'll finish it.
exactly.
I had
Exactly.
one time where I did like a steep discount and I did kind of the self-guided version and I was speaking at an event and I like slashed the price down just for these people. And a few people bought and one woman didn't do it. She didn't, I don't even know if she logged in and watched a video. And like 6 months later, she asked for her money back and then was upset when I wouldn't refund her. And I was like,
Oh my god.
I refund you. You've had months to do this. How do I
Yeah.
know you haven't done it all already and now you're just asking? And I'm like, but she just didn't want to do the work. But
Yeah.
I'm charging $3,500 for the main version of Brand Camp that I offer now. Let me tell you, people
Mm.
show up for those calls. They do the
Yes.
work.
Absolutely.
So there,
Absolutely. It's kind
but I didn't start at that price point either because I was still testing it. I was like, okay,
Yep.
how's this going to work? How am I,
Yep.
and so you can also raise your prices too as you get better at it, as you have case studies showing the difference that this work can do for you or your clients.
Exactly. I mean, it's like forget what that name of that gym, Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
It's like $9 a month. If, I know I wouldn't necessarily feel as compelled to show up to work out on my own at $9 a month, but I
Yeah.
actually pay much higher and I show up every time on time. you know, so it really does make a difference. And one of the I think most impactful books that's helped us to really structure our offers is the book called $100 Million Offers by Alex Hermosi.
Somebody just mentioned that book to me. I
Really,
have to get that book now because you're literally the second person in the last week that has mentioned that book, and I've already got it written down.
that book is so well done from all aspects of marketing. I mean, it really is truly a solid model. I read the book 3 times and listened to the audio version. And one of the things that he shares in there is this value formula. And essentially, it's looking at what is the outcome, what's the likelihood that they're going to achieve it, right? And then we want to make sure that that is high as possible, it's as valuable as possible. And then we want to make sure that these other factors are as low as possible, which is effort and sacrifice and time.
Mm,
So you have to really consider those things, right? When you're coming to figure out what is the pricing here, like you mentioned, value. That those are the things you really have to clarify and dig in on in order to, justify something that you're bringing to the market that's going to help solve that problem.
yeah. I love a good formula. As
Yeah, I
much as
used to
I'm
be
a
a math teacher,
creative
so me too.
person, I'm like, it amazes me how much I love a good spreadsheet. I don't want to build it, but I
Right.
appreciate a really
I
good
appreciate it too. Yeah.
spreadsheet. So if somebody wants to work with you, can you talk through sort of, obviously you do video production. So do people come to you? Do you go to them? How does that part work?
Yeah, a lot of our clients that come to us are really through referrals. So other book publishers, book writing coaches, editors, those are really great referral sources for us because I mean they're about to finish a book, so hey, I got somebody. So sometimes people either refer to us, they come to us, and in other cases we are selective and sort of reaching out to others that we see that hey, they've got this book, and we really feel based on certain criteria that we look at that we could really do something amazing together. So, yeah, most people either coming to us or we're going to them.
No, I mean like physically, like for the video, are they coming
Oh,
flying
I
to
thought
you?
you meant from. Yes, that's a
I
good
like
point. So
the
yes,
answer to the question. It was just not the question I was looking for.
it's okay.
Now, now
So
you've answered that
yes,
question too.
yeah. So in my experience in production, we've done productions all across the country. So when I initially started this business, I was going to go along with the same format to say, oh, we'll go to wherever you are and set up shop and film with you for the day. But then I thought I'm in like one of the most beautiful cities ever, which for any author is more of a retreat anyway. So now we are, exclusively here in San Diego, and our clients come to us here and not only get their content done, but get to be in the sun for a little bit from wherever they're coming, and get to enjoy this beautiful, beautiful city. So yeah, most folks are coming to us to do the video production, and it's a good experience. It's a great experience. VIP, sort of red carpet. We really treat our clients really well.
Amazing. I love that actually, because if you're going to them, like you've got to pack everything up, you've got to take
Oh
a team,
gosh.
you've got to, and just find the location. And there's so many
Yep.
more variables, whereas you can control the experience there and they just have to come to you. So I do think that, you know,
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And then it does feel pretty special when you're like, I'm flying to shoot my videos for my course to San Diego,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And just to kind of get away, it's like, a lot of authors like to get away, to retreat, to do their books. So this could be a similar thing, right? You're going to come and really spend a day with us, a day or two, and your whole course is going to be complete. Our whole model is set up and designed for teachers and experts to show up and teach. And if you do that with us in this process, we will handle all the heavy lifting.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So how can people find out more about working with you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can definitely find me there. And then visiting theauthorsleverage.com is also a great place to kind of see some other information and connect with me there.
Awesome. And you've got a masterclass coming up. You don't have a link for that, but we can always share it here when that's live. But what can you just remind people what the masterclass is on?
Yeah, so the masterclass is about our Book to Course Accelerator, and it's really about answering the question, is a course worth my time? And so we have a framework that we go through with you together, where you're going to walk away with 100% clarity of knowing what's the best strategy that you can utilize to leverage your book and further monetize it.
I think that's so important, because I feel like a lot of people like, you need a course, you need a course, you need a course. And
Yeah.
maybe not everybody does or wants to create a course or wants to
Yeah.
market a course or
Yeah.
has a book that could be so there's a lot of variables, but I feel like there's been a really long time where it's like, everybody was like, you need a course. Then all of a sudden there's like 50 million courses out there, probably
Mm-hmm.
90% of which people aren't actually starting, let alone completing. So how do you make the best course possible that people are going to finish and want to actually participate in? And it sounds like you've really created something amazing that helps people to get the clarity and to actually get it done, not just talk about creating a course, but actually from start to finish getting it
Yeah.
done.
Absolutely. And you bring up such a good point, too, because not every book or not every subject is going to perform well as a course. I mean, that's just, as you mentioned, there's so many courses out there. There's a lot of information. If this is not done in a certain way, you're just contributing to the noise instead of providing something that's really going to stand out. So I highly, highly recommend, like, please, please, just be mindful of that, and, go forward with clarity. And that's essentially what I want to provide as well. There have been authors who I've talked to, and I had to tell them, I don't think you're ready. I don't think that this is going to be the best fit. So know that any conversation with me, I refuse to steer anybody down the wrong direction and come back and say, "Oh, you told me." It's like, I don't want that. And more importantly, I just want to make sure we're providing value out in the
Yeah.
to authors that are looking to make a bigger impact. So definitely recommend, again, just coming and getting that clarity. So that's what the masterclass will help provide.
Amazing. It looks like Alessia is definitely going to be joining on that. So once
Yay.
we've got the link, we'll pop it in here into the comments. Thank you so much, Parchelle. This has been amazing. I love the work you're doing and how you're really
Thanks.
helping entrepreneurs and authors get their work out there into the world even more, and that you do it with integrity. I really believe that. Like, I've actually talked people out of hiring me at times because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'd rather you do this than this, like, than hire me.
Yes.
You need this more than that. Like, because I believe in integrity. I'm not going to tell you to buy something from me if I don't feel like that's the first thing you need, or I think you need to spend your money somewhere else first before, like,
100%.
so I just love that you've got that integrity, and amazing. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, and thanks for those that commented and contributed to the conversation. we'll be in touch for sure.
Absolutely. Awesome. So thank you everyone for joining us. Next week, I will be here same time with Heather Chauvin. She is a TEDx speaker, podcast host, author of Dying to be a Good Mother, which is a
Ooh,
fantastic book.
that
Yeah.
sounds good.
And a leadership coach. She's a wonderful woman. There's a million topics we could cover, so we haven't quite nailed that down yet. And on Thursday, I'm going to go live with a super fun announcement that I'm going to share. So that's a bit of a fun surprise. So I'm going to be hopping on live this Thursday instead of a pre-recorded video. So if you want to know what's going on in my world, then tune in here on Thursday. Thanks again, Parchelle.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.